Some big news coming down on Indianapolis. What's going to happen there? And it's a rookie showcase from Sunday and Sunday night right here on Locked On NFL Draft. Let's go.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am. Welcome in. Hopefully we got a lot of female listeners out there. I know if you follow Eric Crocker on Twitter, there are probably some female listeners out there for sure. Not if you follow me. That's okay. Welcome into Locked On NFL Draft. It is the three draft gurus. Well, these two geniuses, and I'm just along to make sure we don't get any fights. And that is Eric Crocker, former NFL, AFL defensive back, right there at Eric_Crocker on Twitter. It's my man Ryan Tracy from Rogue Analytics, the man crunching the numbers. You can also hear Eric on Locked On 49ers, hear Ryan on Locked On Chiefs, and I am John Harris, football analyst, sideline reporter for the Houston Texans, and also owner-operator of FootballTakeover.com. That is my college and NFL draft site. And before we dive into what's going on in Indianapolis, reminder, today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered the season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. If you love that game within the game, which I know a lot of you out there do because you guys tweet wanting to know things, we'll go to BetOnline. BetOnline will take care of you. All right. Now, guys, if I had a bet online back in 2018, I would have bet on Frank Reich being the Indianapolis Colts coach for a very, very long time. Andrew Luck gets rolling. And I was at the game that really all came together for the Colts, even in the loss. Andrew Luck threw it 62 times. Now, that was a bit much, but they leveled it off. We were playing in week 4. They were 1-2. We were 0-3. We lost our first game to start the season, and Luck and Deshaun Watson go at it, and it is unbelievable. We get a big lead, 28-10. Luck brings them back. Frank Reich is calling just genius plays, gets a tie. We go into overtime. Frank goes for a 4th down and miss it. Watson hit Hopkins. Game-winning field goal. We go to 1-3. They fall to 1-3. But two games later, they turn it around and get hot. They then break our 9-game winning streak. They beat us in the playoffs, and Frank Reich is one of the hottest coaches in the NFL. They can do no wrong. But in 2019, Andrew Luck retires, and the Colts careen over the edge. And it never got back to being what it could have been. They had seven Pro Bowlers last year and didn't even make the playoffs because they couldn't beat the Raiders at home or the Jags on the road.
That Jags loss was really bad.
That Jags loss was really, really bad down in Duval County. The Colts seemed to do that. They did it again this year, losing to the Jags 24-0. Frank Reich's offense was last in the league in almost every category, which is just unimaginable with the talent, with what Frank had built there with that team. So we'll start here. Eric, A, shocked that Frank Reich is gone, and B, where do the Colts go from here?
Yeah, I'm definitely shocked because it didn't feel like he was necessarily the issue. They can't figure out the quarterback position. Every single year since Andrew Luck, they've had a different quarterback to start the year. Are we going to blame Frank Reich or blame Carson Wentz, who I think a lot of people are pointing to Carson Wentz for that bad game he had against the Jacksonville Jaguars that made the Indianapolis Colts miss the playoffs. And the year before, they were in the playoffs playing with Phillip Rivers. So they've been doing kind of this patchwork job at the quarterback position, and that's on Ballard. Like, that's on the general manager. Like, that's not the head coach. The head coach is doing his best with what he's been given, and for the most part, it's been these quarterbacks that are pretty much past their prime, even when it came to Carson Wentz, right? We saw the best version of Carson Wentz early in his career. He has not been that guy since. So now you're asking him to try to win games with the kid out of Texas.
Sam Ehlinger.
Yeah, Sam Ehlinger. Like, you're asking him to win games with Sam Ehlinger. Not an ideal situation after really failing with an very aging, and looking every bit of whatever age Matt Ryan is right now. So It's tough. I did not think that the head coach was necessarily the issue with what's going on in Indianapolis. And it didn't feel like the team quit on them. It didn't feel like guys weren't trying to play hard for them. I just think they're missing that quarterback, that one piece to get them over the hump right now. If you plug Andrew Luck into this team right now, I'm pretty sure they're a playoff team, without a doubt. But quarterback situation has really been up in the air. They're trying to figure out how to get some production out of it, but quarterbacks are there that continue to turn the ball over and not give him anything, and ultimately it cost Frank Reich his job.
Ryan, Eric, I think is dead on with everything that he said. I'm just going to play devil's advocate for the heck of it. It's on Frank because Wentz was his guy, and he should have been able to, A, get him going in the right direction, or B, know from his years in Philadelphia how to get him going in a positive direction. Eric's absolutely right with what he's saying. Like I said, I'm just going to play devil's advocate just to see your response to what I just said. It's on Frank because he couldn't get the best out of Carson Wentz.
I understand the reasoning, and I'll do you one better. Well, maybe two better. That is generally my thought as well. Like, this guy, you have the inside track with Wentz in particular. Let's be real. Every quarterback that Frank Reich has had in Indianapolis is a cast off from somewhere. Somebody has already decided they're broken too much that I can't fix them. Frank is the only one who had the chance with Reich, in my opinion, with Carson, in my opinion. But there also has to be accountability for the quarterback. You have to be coachable. And we have learned since then that he is definitely not coachable any longer. And it doesn't matter what Frank's previous relationship was. If the quarterback ain't going to do what you tell him to do, it ain't going to work, period. The other thing that I will say on being devil's advocate, it's also that you have the best tailback arguably in the league. You have the best left guard in the league, and you can't scrape together 5 yards in a cloud of dust. So that is on the coaching staff, in my opinion, that you should have been able to scrape together with jumbo packages, extra linemen, something to generate your league-leading run game. That didn't happen either. So I can't say that he's without fault whatsoever, but I'm not sure that this was a decision that either he or Chris Ballard got to make.
Oh, I think you're absolutely right about that. We'll talk about that impact and how it does impact Chris Ballard. Jeff Saturday jumps in. And, Eric, I got a question for a former player jumping in as a coach, because that actually popped up in Houston last year. So we're going to hit all that next right here on Locked On NFL Draft. But I want to keep you safe, and so does Simply Safe. We want to keep your goods, your possessions, your home. We want to keep them all safe, especially at the holidays. The number of horror stories of people that have gone away to visit family and come back and their home has been ransacked by whomever, and they walk in and their stuff is just gone. Well, that's what Simply Safe is going to prevent for you. 24/7 monitoring agents watching your house like a hawk. I mean, imagine just having this hawk watching your house the whole time. And if somebody showed up, boom, they've got the ability to contact you with the real threat at that time and make sure nothing happens to your home. And how about this? For Locked On NFL Draft listeners, you can order the #1 rated Simply Safe home security system for 50% off. This is their biggest offer of the year, and you do not want to miss it. Look, I know how it is. You buy insurance. We all buy insurance for something, right? We got insurance for all these different things, and you hope you never use it. But there are a lot of people that don't do something like Simply Safe to protect their home. So in an emergency, 24/7 professional monitoring agents use Fast Protect technology exclusively from Simply Safe to capture critical evidence and verify real threats so you can get priority police response. Don't miss your chance to save big on the only security system that I recommend and we recommend on Locked On NFL Draft. Get 50% off any new Simply Safe system at simplysafe.com/today. simplysafe.com/locked-on today. This is their biggest discount of the year, so do not wait. That's simplysafe.com/locked-on NFL. There's no safe like Simply with an I. Simply Safe. Thanks for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today. For your second listen today, check out Locked On Sports today. From the games that matter the most to the biggest stories in sports, go beyond the scoreboard and behind the scenes with local experts and insights only Locked On can provide. Locked On Sports today, available on this app, YouTube, and wherever you get your podcast. All right, let's dive into what this means for the Colts GM Chris Ballard. Now, full disclosure, I've known Chris for a long time. Man, Chris is a friend of mine. I've known him way back when we were in college, and I was visiting his dad's tire shop in Texas City, Texas. So I've known Chris for a long time. But this now becomes very interesting because Ryan said something in the previous segment that I think is absolutely true. And 1,000% I agree that it's on that Jim Irsay made this decision. And it became evident when Jeff Saturday was named the head coach. Because I had a feeling that's not a Chris Ballard move. I don't think Chris, with 9 games left to go or 8 games, whatever the rest is for the Colts, left to go in their season. I didn't see any way that Chris would make a decision like that. So, yes, I believe this is a Jim Irsay decision for Jeff Saturday to step in as the head coach. Ryan, what does it all mean? Jeff Saturday steps in as the head coach. Chris Ballard is still there. But what do you think happens to Ballard? What do you think happens with this coaching situation in some sense? And what do you think happens to Frank Reich? All those 3 key pieces in this situation with the Indianapolis Colts.
I think the easiest one is Frank Reich. I think he's going to be great on TV when he takes Sean Payton's seat as Sean gets a job next year. I think that's going to be wonderful, to tell you the truth, for everybody involved. I think the really iffy part here is Jeff Saturday, obviously, is somebody that Irsay has connection to. He's a stalwart in that organization. They're ring of honor, the whole 9 yards. The only problem is Jeff Saturday hasn't coached above high school. So he can't come in there, and I don't think, despite knowing the ins and outs of O-line play, I don't think he can correct that offense by himself. It doesn't look like there's anything at least been announced yet with changes to the other staff. He's not going to design the plays. He's not going to change the calls. I don't see an improvement there just based on making this replacement. And importantly, while there's trust there for the owner, it's also a guy, there's 2 other guys on that staff that have head coaching experience. If you really wanted to fix it, bring Jeff in and let him work with the O-line. Try to get that fixed. Let him do what he does well, and let somebody else who's run an organization run that coaching staff. I think this is panic mode. This is emotional. I think this is all ownership dictating what happens. Unfortunately, I don't see it changing the course of this season for the Indianapolis Colts. And if that doesn't happen, I don't know that there's any room left for Chris Ballard to survive. Because if you've already gone and traded away, demanded things happen on players that he's evaluated, you've already lost some trust there. And I feel like this is just the step forward. If something miraculous happens, and I do think Jeff Saturday could say, we're going to go back with the better. We're going to put Matt Ryan back in it. And if Matt has a second coming, maybe that does enough to earn another year for Chris Ballard. But right now, everybody in Indianapolis has got to be walking on eggshells.
Eric, with Jeff Saturday coming in, and we've talked about this in our building because there was a widely held belief that Josh McCown was going to come in and be the coach for the Texans in 2022. And the city of Houston just went crazy. Like, wait a second, this guy has never coached a day in his life, and you're going to take him from being on the field and all of a sudden make him the head coach for this team. Now, Jeff Saturday's interim head coach. As a player in the locker room, you've been there, maybe not in this situation, because this is brand new, but a guy comes out of whatever broadcasting booth or ESPN or wherever, he steps in to be your interim head coach. How do you think that's going to be received in the locker room, given the fact that he has never coached at this particular level? He's only been a head coach at a Christian high school or a high school down in Georgia or wherever he is. Your thoughts of the players when he steps in there as the interim head coach, and how problematic is that?
I don't know how problematic it'd be. I'm very curious to see what his angle is, or at least, hear that, right? Or what their angle is. What are they trying to do with this? You take a guy who is not coaching at the NFL level at all, have no ties with your team outside of previously playing for the organization. What's the long play here? Is this a guy who you're trying to figure out, hey, could he potentially be a head coach? Do you like some of the things he's talking about? Like, where did this come from? How long has this been in the works with you potentially firing Frank Reich and bringing in Jeff Saturday? I don't think this is something that you just decided over the last week or so. So very interesting there. I'd say that the players overall probably will respect him. This is a guy that played a lot of years in the NFL, had success at the highest level, understands it. If he just comes in and says, hey, listen, I'm here to potentially try to tell you guys, hey, this is how we won in previous years. And I'm going to coach you up that way, and we're going to get you guys headed in the right direction for whoever takes over next season or in the offseason. Then maybe the players kind of buy into that. at the end of the day, I will say this. You got to play for yourself. Because when there is a coaching regime change, like that, what is about to happen, it's up to you if you're going to be there for the long haul or if you're going to be going soon. And it all depends on what you put on tape. And you're not just playing for the Indianapolis Colts, you're also auditioning for the other 31 teams as well. So we know once you have that coaching change, heads are going to roll. You got to put your best foot forward and really do what's best for you on the field, which is lock in and play your best football from here on out.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit right on all those points. My thought is if Chris gets – I don't know his contract situation. I don't know any of that. I know it's different for GMs. You have to worry about salary cap or anything. I feel like if Chris got to the quote-unquote open market, if Irsay just did say, okay, we're done, I think Chris Ballard would have a job, not wherever he wanted, but he'd be able to pick, I think, his next location. But that all said, the proof really is in the pudding. His 2018 draft was, a grand slam. To get Quentin Nelson, Braden Smith, and Shaquille Leonard all in that draft, my goodness. That's incredible. But, this past draft, Alec Pierce, Jelani Woods, those guys have started to pan out, but the inability to get it right at the quarterback position. And I remember the one thing that Chris said in his press conference, and I remember him saying this to us, he wanted three things when he was looking to be a GM. He was with the Kansas City Chiefs, and he was waiting for his opportunity. And he said, I want to be in the Midwest. I want to be able to have roster control, and I want a quarterback. And Indianapolis, at that point, just screamed those three things. And then Andrew Luck retired. And it's just amazing how that rocked that organization's foundation, and they never could kind of get back on track. And since he left, they have not won a playoff game. They lost the one they played in 2020. What they had Phillip Rivers. Then they didn't get back in 2021. They didn't make the playoffs in 2019. So that organization's been rocked to the core by that retirement. But you got to deal. You got to deal with it. And Frank Reich, unfortunately, lost his job today. I think he'll either end up in the booth, as Ryan said, or there might be a team looking for a head coach, might be looking for an offensive coordinator, or just a guy that come in and be a senior offensive analyst and just give his thoughts on what they're doing. I still think Frank's got a great offensive mind, and it just got to a point where it wasn't working in Indianapolis anymore and they had to move on. I think it could work somewhere else for Frank. I'd like to see Ballard stay there just because I want to see Ballard, twice a year, even though he drafts and does things very, very well as a GM. But I think it's going to be really dicey, and it's going to be interesting how Jeff Saturday plays into all of this with Indianapolis. Now, it is Locked On NFL Draft, so we got to talk about some rookies over the weekend. My guys here got a chance to see the Malik Willis experience on Sunday night. Did they agree with what I saw the Sunday prior? And Kenneth Walker in Seattle. We got to talk about this rookie because he is blowing it up against the NFC West and just the NFL in general. That's next, but I got to talk to you about jewelry. We all love jewelry, right? Y'all see Kirk Cousins? Kirk Cousins wearing just nothing but just iced out, no shirt. He's just having a great time. Now, I don't think you need to buy Kirk Cousins some jewelry. You might want to buy a significant other some jewelry. And if you've got a milestone to celebrate, then Blue Nile can help you make your celebration even more memorable. I don't know if all that jewelry came from Blue Nile, but if those people were smart, it absolutely would, because Blue Nile is the original online jeweler, offering the largest selection of independently graded diamonds and pieces priced significantly below traditional retailers. Blue Nile has helped millions of couples create their perfect engagement ring. And like we said, we don't know anything about rings, guys. We know nothing. Cut, clarity, we can't speak the language. Now, we can speak the football language. We can't speak jewelry language. Well, that's okay. Blue Nile does all that for you. They pat you on the back and say, we got this. This is all good. Looking for a piece of fine jewelry to commemorate a special milestone, but you just don't know? Let Blue Nile's jewelry experts help you. Oh, and by the way, they're on hand 24/7. Shop stress-free with Blue Nile's 100% satisfaction guarantee. All Blue Nile orders are insured and shipped for free in discreet packaging. Make your moment sparkle with Blue Nile. Go to BlueNile.com. Use code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. That's BLUE Blue, NILE, Nile, BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON to save $50 on your purchase of $500 or more. BlueNile.com, code LOCKEDON. All right, guys, this weekend some rookies got a chance to shine, and Malik Willis got his second opportunity and he had to do it on Sunday Night Football. I won't say any more. Eric Crocker, I'm just going to give you the floor. Your thoughts of what you saw from the rookie from Liberty on Sunday night against the Chiefs.
He looked like a young athletic quarterback, a guy still trying to figure it out from the neck up with what he's seeing from opposing defenses. You know, he can be fooled, but he's going to be able to rely on his legs to be able to make some plays. And I think the offensive coordinator, they leaned on his ability to do that. They did some read option stuff, and I think that kind of helped some run lanes for the big running back in the backfield, Derrick Henry. They did some read option stuff where, hey, you can read the edge. If they crash down, go ahead and pull. He was able to get outside the edge a few times. Still a lot of work to do as a passer, but we see the big arm. We know he has the ability. I think it's just really honing in on playing from the pocket, but without him really knowing what he's seeing from defenses, especially now, right? Like defenses in the NFL right now, they get the game plan for you. They are going to make life difficult, especially for a young guy who has not seen anything. So clearly not there as a passer. Athleticism definitely was on full display, and that might just be good enough to get them by. As we saw last night, tight game, wasn't able to make the necessary throws to win the game, but we'll keep them in games, and hopefully he just doesn't have to be the reason right now that they need to win the game.
Ryan, it was your Chiefs going against Malik Willis. Had to come from behind, but got the dub 20-17. And Tennessee gets the 17 points for 2 weeks in a row. It was Derrick Henry last week against us. It was not enough against the Chiefs. A, your thoughts about Malik Willis. And B, how about your guy George Karlaftis? What are you seeing from the rookie from Purdue and what he's bringing to the Chiefs defense?
Well, the two of them almost ran into each other a couple of times, and I like that aspect of it.
Yeah.
I will say I thought Malik made two serious throws that were off of his platform, running for his life on one of them, and made some nice completions, showing that arm ability. I think it was just a miscalculation on the staff's part to not RPO him more. I think he's a guy who needs that rhythm. I think he needs those touches. I think he needs to use his legs to kind of get warmed up, get into the flow of things. I think that will help him. And I think they made a mistake doing that. I think the outcome could have hinged very differently had they run him more specifically. Karlaftis, on the other hand, was chasing him around pretty good. George got close on at least 3 plays where he could have actually gotten his second sack of the season. He did end up producing a team-leading 4 pressures along with Chris Jones and Carlos Dunlap. So in terms of, I think it was only 22 dropbacks. There weren't a whole lot of pressure opportunities, but Karlaftis is coming along. Now, he's not finishing. He's still leading the league in pressures by the rookie class with Aiden Hutchinson at 24, but he's only converted one of them to an actual sack, whereas we've seen a number of players, Hutchinson, Drake Jackson's producing the sack numbers. So it's still a work in progress for George, but I think we're going to see him evolve.
Yeah, no doubt. And it was a wonderfully physical football game on Sunday night. And if the Titans could have done anything offensively to stay on the field, then maybe they obviously score more 17 and win that football game. The Titans, it's amazing to watch the Titans because they're just, you look at them and go, how is this game 17-9? They haven't done anything offensively, and yet they're still up. It feels like every game with the Titans is definitely like that. But I think Malik has got – there's something there. Now, the key is, can they get it out of him before Ryan Tannehill goes back in the lineup, and then Malik kind of gets pushed to the side a little bit more, doesn't get those reps. I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see what happens in Tennessee. Not that Ryan Tannehill is the greatest quarterback ever, but you can kind of see where he can fill in some of the gaps that Malik maybe is missing. But you give Malik Willis some time with Eric, a young guy that maybe you've got something with, especially if you got the big fella running downhill the way that he is. Speaking of running.
Real quick, John, we have seen examples, too, of quarterbacks that have kind of started off this way where you have to lean on the legs a little bit more. Sure. We're seeing it right now in Chicago with Justin Fields.
Yes.
And, you know, he's made some throws. He's done some things from the pocket, but kept a game extremely close Sunday evening against the Miami Dolphins. How did he do it? With his legs. He ran for 170-something yards, right? So Jalen Hurts got hurt. That's another example of a guy who, especially early on, and even now, they still really kind of lean on him utilizing his legs. He's not really throwing the ball a ton, even though there are those games where he has a little bit more passing yards, 300 passing yards or whatever. That's not how they want to win week in and week out with him. So lean on the run game for some of these guys, utilize your legs, and then progress as a passer as time goes on.
This is one thing I'm a firm believer in, what Eric, you just said. With young guys, I have no issue with them scrambling a little bit early, setting up a running down, because it buys them another series of downs. And no matter how they get a first down, it gives them confidence. They may not have made a throw, but if you scramble for a first down, it just buys you more time under center, calms you down. The other thing I'd like to do for young quarterbacks early in the game, especially with a guy like Willis, because he's got that hose, to just let him take 3 steps, max protect, take your fastest guy, whoever that is, and just go. And just air it out as far as you can throw it. Because you get all that angst out, you get all that just out of you with that one big throw, and then all of a sudden you can settle in. Now, at that point, if the guy gets beyond, maybe you catch it, great. If you don't, maybe you force the DBs to back up a little bit. You put everybody on blast. But most importantly, it settles a young quarterback down. I am all in favor of going deep very, very early in the game with a young quarterback to let all of that come out. But I have absolutely no issue a guy running for a first down to buy himself another set of downs, get some confidence. Cam used to do that when he was a rookie. Cam would get that first down with his legs. He kind of gets settled in, maybe take a hit. Some guys need to do that too. Take a hit, get settled in, and away you go. Now, a guy that's going to take a lot of hits, but he dishes out as well, is Kenneth Walker with Seattle. It's not a guy that we've talked a ton about. Obviously, with me in Houston, talk a lot about Dameon Pierce. You know, Breece Hall was crushing it with the Jets before he got hurt. When you look up in the Seattle Seahawks are on a winning streak. Geno Smith is playing really well. I don't think people expected that. I don't know what people expected from Kenneth Walker, but Eric, you get a chance in the NFC West with the Niners to see Kenneth Walker up close and personal. He rushed for 109 yards against the Arizona Cardinals. He's given them a physical component. Your thoughts about Kenneth Walker?
Kenneth Walker, he's been tremendous, right? You look how they're utilizing him in the run game, doing some things in the passing game as well, opening up there. And that was a big question mark with him coming out of Michigan State because they just didn't really use him in that way, right? As a pass catcher. And you see the way the NFL is going now. If you want to be a 3-down player, you got to be able to not just pass protect, but actually catch the ball out of the backfield. Well, he's doing a little bit of everything. And obviously you want him to be that ground and pound type guy. You see them kind of really finishing off the game for them, using him near the goal line, using him as a battering ram. He's making guys miss in the phone booth. I mean, he's been tremendous. The production has been lights out, especially over the last few weeks. He's progressively growing and really, it almost looks like the game is slowing down for him, and he's understanding how to pick and choose his holes and get skinny in holes to be more effective in that way. So, I mean, he's been terrific. And if he keeps this up, I mean, who else is going to be competing with him for Offensive Rookie of the Year? Maybe a Chris Olave. Would have been Breece Hall, but obviously he's out now with a torn ACL. But yeah, Kenneth Walker, I think he's been tremendous. And we look at what Seahawks are doing right now. They're leaning on a lot of young guys, not just Kenneth Walker. You got guys on the other side of the ball, Tariq Woolen. You got Kobe Bryant. Look at their tackles on the offensive line with Cross and Abraham Lucas. So a lot of guys contributing as young guys, and Kenneth Walker might be the best one.
Ryan Tracy was Pete Carroll and John Schneider. Were they right?
In hindsight, you got to think so. There's nothing to prove it. I'm always leery of high draft selections on running backs, but it's paying off in this one. Is it supplemented by the tackle play? Absolutely. So as a trio there, as the triangle that you selected, I can live with it. Maybe you could flip some of those things and I'd be happy, but he's also earning on his own. He's at 3.25 yards after contact per carry. That's something that he's manufacturing on his own as well. It's not Dameon Pierce, and I know you like that, and that's okay. But it's not just the setup from the blocking. So yeah, I think at this point you got to be happy if you're a Seattle fan. I'm still a second round quarterback or running back guy though.
No, man, I hear you. I know that they liked him in Houston. They liked him in Houston. I loved him in Houston. They just couldn't get him. And I don't want to say that settle for Dameon Pierce, but it's okay. And Dameon would be in that offensive rookie of the year conversation if we weren't 1-6-1. If we were, I don't know, 4-3, 4-4, or something like that, at least in the mix, then I think Dameon could be in the consideration because he is our most valuable player. There's no doubt here in Houston. Gentlemen, fantastic stuff. I think we had a much better day than the Colts did on Monday. But maybe for them it gets better. It's always going to get better for us right here on Locked On NFL Draft. And we thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. The biggest stories of the day, plus instant reactions, big game recaps, and the take of the day. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, and wherever you get podcasts. For Eric, for Ryan, I'm John. We got plenty of stuff coming the rest of this week, so keep it locked right here on Locked On NFL Draft. We'll see you.